the 10 steps to stress-free machine quilting. We've gone through fabric preparation, piecing accuracy. We looked at pressing methods, batting selection, basting, and quilt stabilization. So we're going to talk about designs and how densely we quilted with that design, our quilt project. And we're going to talk about how we place a design in a quilt once we have selected the design. The density of our quilting has a lot to do with our batting selection. Our design selection will be influenced by the batting choice that we make. 8 inches apart, that means we can leave 8 inches of space where there's no quilting. But if we have to stitch no more than 3 inches apart, we don't want it to be more than 3 inches apart if that's what the batting instructions say. Now we have to start thinking about quilting it, right? I will consider the thread also for the pattern. Does the quilting pattern require backtracking? If there's backtracking, meaning stitching over the previous stitches, some free motion quilting patterns do not work well with, say, variegated thread, where the color of the thread fluctuates and changes, right? So we want to consider our thread. Do we want contrasting? Do we want blending thread? Once we have selected our thread and we think about our free motion quilting pattern, one of the things that will influence what quilting pattern we use is based on what skill level we are, what tools we have. One, what tools do you have? Can you stitch in the ditch with a walking foot? Maybe your machine didn't come with a walking foot. That's one of the first things we learn as quilters, is to quilt our projects with a walking foot. And if that's where you are, you learn how to use the walking foot to get different results. And there are many beautiful things you can quilt with the walking foot. You want to explore that, not just stitch in the ditch. That's one pattern, right? You can also stitch by the ditch. You can do a 1/4 inch on either side of the seam to create a pattern. You can stitch on a diagonal from one corner of the quilt to the other and then subsequently quilt all the way out. You can do a cross hatch with the walking foot. That's a great place to start, right? Your pattern that you choose can be based on your tools. One, you have a walking foot. If you want to venture into other techniques like free motion quilting or ruler quilting, those are tools and skills you will need to purchase and learn. And there's a process for all of these tools, right? The walking foot, learning how to use it properly, learning how to use a free motion foot and setting up your machine for that. And the same thing with ruler quilting. You need the right foot for that, and you need to learn the skill. Selecting a pattern will be based on your particular skill. And as you develop your skills, you can always combine walking foot with free motion. You can combine free motion with ruler quilting. You can combine ruler quilting with walking foot quilting. So you want to slowly, over time, build your skills. You know, I always say, practice, practice, practice. When we start to add these skills, we are giving ourselves options so that we can do stippling only in a quilt or stippling in a walking foot. We can add ruler quilting with free motion. We can use a walking foot with ruler quilting. When we add these skills, we are giving ourselves more options. So I was on a journey to give myself more options with ruler quilting. And so I would practice on a fat quarter like you see here. This is a fat quarter. and I wanted to use this new template and stitch some circles with straight lines. So I slowly started adding different parts to this. I started in the center and worked my way out. I put in that spirally curved design in the center. Then I framed it with 2 circles. Then I put some points on the left, the right, the top, and the bottom for a star-like look. So little by little, I just added different elements. There's no right, there's no wrong to it. I was just having fun, right? Learning how to add different elements. When we do that and we experiment, we begin to see what our options are, what we can do, what we can change, what can make it better, what we didn't like. All of that comes into play when we experiment and practice. So once I did this and I said, wow, I like this. How can I put it in a quilt? Here is how it looks in a quilt. Can you see how that design worked right into this project? It's the same spiral-like design in the center, the 2 circles, and then I put in those echoed points left and right, top and bottom. You see the step by step process, practice, then adding it into a small practice quilt, portions of a design that I practiced, and then I did straight line echo quilting, which I already know how to do. I added something new. I added something I already know. That is my process for continually adding more design possibilities for my quilting. Let's look at some examples that I have of quilts that I've quilted with different patterns using the techniques that I know: walking foot, free motion, and ruler quilting. So let's look at this one. A lot of what we choose has to do with the batting, right? I mentioned that. The purpose of the quilt, our skill level, what techniques we know, and what tools we have. So this is a baby quilt that I designed for Quick and Easy Quilts, Bonds and Porter's Quick and Easy Quilts. It's a 1-block pattern. It's quick and easy to make, and it's a baby quilt. So I chose wool batting, and I chose a filler design that I love, Bear Claw, and I've learned how to stitch that on a small scale and a big scale. This is my big scale. But I also wanted to create segments, areas for the Bear Claw free motion quilting design. I did some echo quilting. You see the echoes with rulers. Now that could be done with a walking foot. Do you see my stippling on the seam? Look at the star points. I have some wavy lines, that's free motion wavy lines, going across the seams around the star points. I did not want to quilt the star points for this. I wanted that to be an area of softness and cuddle potential for the baby. So no quilting on the star points. But look at how the echo quilting, the 4 straight lines coming off of the star points into the background. That frames the free motion quilting of the Bear Claw. And it provides a accent. It runs your eye right to the star. That was the purpose.